Howdy everybody, and welcome back to the Chip and Dale tutorial. So last time we set up the camera director and we're just about done with all the various game objects that we can possibly make. So we are going to move on to enemies now because the enemy folder is looking very lonely. So let's get cracking. Alright. So to get us started off with, we are going to create a spawner for our enemies. So over in the enemies folders, create a new object and call it object underscore enemy. If I can spell enemy underscore spawner, like so. And this is going to be fairly simple. We're just going to add in a create event. Instance underscore is equal to no one. And a step event. We are also going to add a variable definition, and this will be called enemy underscore, and we're going to give it a type of resource, which lets us select different things. We don't have anything right now to give it a value for, but we'll use it in a bit when we set up our enemies. So that will let us create the enemies as they come on, as this thing comes on the screen. So to get us started off with here, we are going to say we're going to get a couple of variables. The views X, the views Y position. And then we are going to do that if rectangle underscore in underscore rectangle again that we used with the camera director over here. In fact, I believe it's exactly the same code. Yes, it is. So you can just copy the code from there all the way down to here. And there we go. So we're checking to see if this object has come into the camera's view. If it has, then trigger an event. So let's see. If instance underscore is equal to no one, if we haven't spawned a monster yet, then instance underscore is equal to instance underscore create underscore layer XY enemies an enemy using the enemy variable definition that we created down there, and instance underscore destroy. So we're just gonna blow up this object so that we don't end up constantly creating additional copies of our enemies. This is a bit of a bug in the original game where if you're very close to a position, you can get an infinite stream of enemies. But with this setup, the enemies will only spawn once, and that's what we want. Alright, so let's make an enemy. Get us started off with, I think we'll move... Yeah, this should be fairly easy. We'll start with, let me zoom out here. And we'll do a couple episodes where we go over creating some more enemies here, depending on how much recording time this takes. So we're going to add a subgroup here. I'm going to call this the Spark group. And we're going to add in object underscore Spark. Give that object boss miscellaneous sprite spark. There we go. Give it a spark sprite and a create event and a step event. And this is going to use some fairly basic code from our movement scripts and stuff. So let's get going on that. First off, image speed equals 0.5 because it's a little bit fast. Acceleration is 0.5. Max speed is 1. I don't really know if it needs these because you never can really tell. So I just left it in there. So x speed and x fractions. Again, you probably don't even really need these if you make it simple enough. And it needs to get the tile map layer because we are going to be checking what tile it is on to see where it can move. So let's go over to the step event. And first thing off, we need to remember to add in our pause. So if a pause has been pressed, then don't process the step event. Otherwise, you can copy and paste the speed fractions code from our character object. And we can go there. And next up, we're just gonna basically again copy the movement code, except we're going to make it slightly. We're going to change it slightly up so that this enemy can only move left and right on the right tiles. So we're going to need to declare a selection of variables that we will use for this. Our B-box check, player 1, current cell, target X, target Y, and cells. So I basically just gutted the movement script and I'm dumping its contents into here. And next up, we are going to check which side, we're going to set which side of the object we are going to check for a collision. So if our X speed is greater than or equal to 0, if we're going right, check on our right side, otherwise check on our left side. And something like this. Current underscore cell is equal to bbox check divided by tile width. Target cell is bbox check plus x speed. And tile width again, that should let us check for what tile we're moving into. And this is how far we want to check. So target cell minus current cell. If we are in the same box, it'll be 0. Otherwise, it will be hopefully 1, because that would be about the fastest this guy can go, based on the fact that its max speed is only 1 pixel per frame, and each tile is 16 pixels wide. So if target cell is equal to current cell, then just move us. So if we're in the same cell as we are targeting, then there's nothing to collide with, so just move. And again, this is, like I said, literally the code in our movement script. Just gut it out and copy and paste it into here. And we're just going to add in a little bit of coding that says that you can only move on wire tiles. So in the collision code, normally we would just be checking for like tile 1, because we want to make sure that we are on solids. But in this case, we're checking for 554. So if you go over to your tile sets and go into tile set city, you can check which one of these is. There's a way to check what tile is which somewhere, but I can't remember what it is. As it is, this tile right here is number 554, as I found out. Anyways, so yeah, so over as many cells as we are moving, check to see if we are on top of a wire tile. If we are, then if we have reached the end of the wire tile, flip our max speed to -1. Otherwise, flip our max speed to 1. So if we're going left or going right. And then just add in speed fractions and x plus equal x speed. And there's no real reason to bother with trying to check for Y speed because we do not have a Y speed. Real quick, we can come over here. And collapse all that. Last but not least, remove ourselves if we are too far from the player or outside of the room. So, kill me. If the distance to the object player, parent underscore player, looks like I didn't put a parent player object. So, real quick, go over to parents and create parent underscore player and add as children players your object player, and yeah, that's it. If you add a player 2, add player 2 in there as well. There's nothing else really important to put in there. This is just for distance check. If distance to object parent player is greater than 256 pixels, then destroy me. Because there's no need to have a enemy object running around off the screen. And get our view Y, our Y max. So if we have fallen off the bottom of the screen or we're over the top of the screen, destroy me. And if the X is less than 0, so if we're off the left of the or the right of the room, if we've gone outside of the room, destroy me somehow. I have no idea how they would go outside of the room, but if they did, destroy me. So we can go over to our room. Let's see, where's our room? Zone 0. There we go. And we want to zoom in, come to our enemies layer here, and we're going to want to throw in a spark spawner right here. Let me make sure about that. Nope, that's completely wrong. We're supposed to put it right here. And specifically, it has to be right here. I mean, it doesn't matter where on the wire you put it, but it has to be this height so that because the spark spawns right here and will fill in this tile right here when it spawns in. If you spawn it off the wire, then it won't be able to do anything, and that wouldn't be good. So let's give it a test see here. Just for the heck of it, we'll add in a couple more. And make sure in the variables, so by default here in the variable definition, we would, oh wait, not you, in the object spawner, let's set this, go over to enemies, spark, object spark, and set that as the default. And if we were to be changing it to something else here, we would then be able to change it right here, but we don't need to. So let's give this a test. All right. Okay. I didn't kill myself. Yep, player 1 is... Oh, there we go. I had both of them up at the same time. That actually is wrong. shouldn't be able to pull that one at the same time. So that's a little bug I should probably fix later on. Alright. Let's not jump off this time. Okay, let's see if our spark spawns. There he is. Except he's not doing anything. Darn it. Oh, I hate when I have to go in through and debug them. Mostly because it takes a long time and it's not very interesting. Target Y is referenced only once. Well, we don't need to worry about that because we aren't going to be using target Y. Alright, if instance exists, object pause or object inventory, exit, speed fractions. We got speed fractions in there. Next up, we need to declare all these variables. If x speed is greater than 0, b-box right, otherwise b-box left. Tile width, current cells, target cell is equivalent to current cell, x plus equal x speed. Else do all this. Doesn't kill itself, at least. So we got 0.5, 0.5, 1. No, it's literally a carbon copy. Set x speed equal to 0 at the start. That might be it. Do I ever set the x speed equal to something other than 0? Oh, there it is. Yep, found it. Over here. Should be immediately before we do the x fractions or anything else. I completely forgot. We need to add our x speed. So that should make it work now. Hop, hop. See, we lose a heart when we take damage. And now these guys move properly. Yay, there we go. Don't step on them. Oh, we're not taking damage from them yet. So how do we fix that? We need to come over to our character object. So object player 1, step event. And we need to come down to our take damage section. So right there. Let me pull up the code over here on this side. Alright, we are going to add in take damage from enemies. If we meet a parent enemy, then take damage from it, unless we are in the hiding state, in which case I didn't put this in here, but under normal conditions you would actually kill the enemy if you touch them while you're in the hiding in a box. Else take damage. Just copy of this code right here. But sparks are checked for directly, since you can't hurt them like a normal enemy. So we don't want you to be able to hurt them when you're in the hiding state. So place meeting spark, again, exactly the same as all that. Real quick, go over to your parents, create a parent underscore enemy, and give it a child of our spark. And we'll add more things to it later on. And it has some code, and we'll add that in a little bit too. I think that's everything we need for this episode, so thank you everybody for joining me, and good luck with your programming.